to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very great, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me. And if not, I will go down now. Then men turned away from them and went towards Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose that the future righteous went towards Sodom. Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, would you far be it from you to do such a thing like this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked? Far be it from you, shall not join all the so the Lord said, if I find them Sodom, future righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, indeed now, I, who am just and ashes, have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose that we find less than the future righteous, would you destroy all of the city for lack of fire? So he said, if I find there 45, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him there again and said, suppose there should be 40 found there. So he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there. So God said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, indeed now I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there. So he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham. And Abraham returned to his place. Now I'm just going to jump to the chapter 20. No, it's 20, sorry, 21. So skip verse chapter 19 and 20. So read 21 and 22. If you are there, you can just give a thumbs up. Thank you. So Genesis chapter 21. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord visited Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham his son in his old age, at the set time of which the Lord had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 years old, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear him will laugh with me. She also said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, for I bore him a son in his old age. So the child grew and was raised, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was raised. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had brought to Abraham's custom. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be held in my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of the bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Verse 13. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot. For she said to herself, let me not sit together with the boy. So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, what ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad in your ears. Arise, reach up the lad, and hold him up with your hand, for I will make you a revelation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the lad a drink. So God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Haran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore, swear to me by God that you will not do falsely with me, with my offspring or with my posterity, but that according to the kindness that I have done to you, you will give to me and to the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I will swear. Then Abraham rebuked Abimelech because of the well of water, which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing? You did not tell me, nor I heard of it until today. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs in the flock by themselves. Then Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves? And he said, you will take these 7 ewe lambs from my hands, that they will be my witness that I have dug this well. Therefore, he called that place Beersheba, because the two of them swore an oath there. First they made covenant and Beersheba. So Abimelech rode with Phicol and the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and then called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines and they lived. Our last chapter from the book of Genesis, Genesis 32. Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. Then he said, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering, on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place far off. And Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. The last and last will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you. So Abraham took the wood of the and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and the knife, and the two of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. Then he said, look at the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb or a burnt offering. So the two of them went together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. And Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the lamb to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, here I am. And he said, do not lay your hands on the lamb or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son from me. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a lamb caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the lamb and offered it up for the burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, the Lord will provide, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham the second time out of heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son. Blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants, as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. Now it came to pass after these things, that it was told Abraham, saying, indeed, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. All his firstborn, Boz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Chesed, Azor, Pildash, Diblah, and Bethuel. And Bezor begot Rebekah. These 8 Milcah brought to Nahor, Abraham's brother, his concubine, whose name was Rebekah. Also brought Zebah, Naham, Taash, and Maachah. And that marks the end of the book. Our first Bible reading. We got there before the Lord of Jesus. Okay, so basically, which is what each of the Bible reading is going to speak towards, is about the Abrahamic blessing, that the promise that God gave to Abraham, which ultimately was manifest in the person of Christ. Because, I've heard people talk about the fact that when the devil saved, like God just judged him, like there was no second chance, so to speak. And then God was, let me use the word, loosely, partial. Because when man fell, God had said, the wages of sin is there. So the moment man fell in the garden, we expected that instant judgment as well. Everyone was just going to be held bound. The same way it happened with the fallen angels. But rather than God to just cast man into hell, God started by covering man, and then drove man out of the garden, which again was an act of godliness. Because the reason why God drove man out of the garden, he said, he puts his hand and takes from the tree of life and becomes the water tree. That was the essence of it. So God did not want to relate to us for these things. So that was why God had to drag him out of the garden, guard the tree of life. So that when the orientation of man was perfected, the man can then come back to the garden, which is where we are ultimately all going to end up. You know, in this world, there's when after the rapture, there's going to be a life. So very different forever. But not in a fallen state, but in the state that God originally designed for us. And when that's to tie the story of why God did not judge man instantly, or how is it to answer the question is how is it that God judged the judge instantly and God didn't judge man instantly? But rather God made a declaration for man. Why should man still have a second chance at making it or at trading with God? So there's something my pastor says that God is a very merciful God. But as merciful as God is, it's also a very just God. So it's that for those of us that were see that thing in the courts, you see that blind woman that face to like phone. She's holding two scales, and both of them it's not like this, it's not cheating, it's a very balanced scale. So you can look at God's judgment on one side, balanced, the mercy on the other side, they are both balanced. So even if God wanted to show mercy tonight, God could not, let me use the word violate the part of him that had to judge man. God could do it. In as much as it could. Because that would be to make man unjust God. And God is not unjust. So, in the wisdom of God, this was the way that God was able to be just and still show mercy to man. It was for God to send a replacement to die for his people in the person of our Lord and Jesus. But it still would have been fair. God still just sent Jesus unilaterally. And what the man that would make God just send his only begotten son to die for man. So that was what happened in Genesis 22. So God has, and I think there's something here I used to say to me that when we try to talk about the conscious of man or certain things, people feel, oh, it's about the man. I'm strong, I can take it. But the devil is very patient. You can have a 10-year plan, you can have a 20-year plan, and you just be getting to drop your guards here and there, little by little, and one day it just strikes. Look at someone like David. Why did David take a chair? He was jobless. Kings were at war. He used to at home. If he was on the battlefield, he would not have ended up with Bathsheba. But I'm not saying I'm going to like people are counseling. But it's very possible that David was staying back home when kings went, other kings went to battle. Because just saw like that. I have my and the rest of the life. Like, you can argue it's like it's a stain on me for you to go. I can just be loud to you. I'm sure my voice is one. I'm sure you all know that you were just playing casually. But the devil has a plan. I want your job is to just be loud to and you really good. You still want to what I'm supposed to say. And we know what the devil is after, but thank God the devil was mostly the life of David. But David is not our focus this morning. So back to this. So God had God knew that at some point, Jesus would have to come and die for the sin of man so that we can reconcile to God. But so that, because God is not the kind of God that will ask questions. It wasn't like I said, do what you're struggling. Let us reason together. So God is kind of good. I want you to ask me a question. Say, God, I don't understand this. This seems to be a contradiction. And God will explain. So God knew that one thing had sent Jesus. But he had to be merciful and just God. He sent Jesus to die. And what he did was, he caused Abraham, being the father of faith, to enter into the God, where Abraham himself surrendered his own only son. Because if you're paying attention in this picture, God of Ishmael was not recognized as Abraham's son, as far as his nation was concerned. Because when God was God said, your only son. So that Ishmael is between you and Abraham and Sarah. The one that I recognize is Isaac. He said, your only son. And what did he tell you to do? Go and slay him, just sacrifice him, kill him with your own hand. I'm not even telling you to outcast. I'm not telling you everybody to commit suicide with your own hand. Because one day me too, I will have to watch my son die on. So you to give up your seed for you. You really want to take that person. Show to the principalities and to powers. Show to the ages to come. Show to rulers. Show to them that we should be powerful for me. So that when Jesus comes, and it's not time for me to reciprocate for want of a better word. I will be found to be a just and a merciful God. And that was exactly what happened in Genesis 22. So Abraham showed that absolute surrender. He took the son, he said, the Lord and I are going over to worship. And he was ready. It's not a matter of moment of truth. You don't do this, I will do. But when you get there, you will chicken out. He had brought out the life to stay with him, but we are not the same. And it was in that moment that God gave us substitutes. And it was a lamb. Remember what he said to Isaac when they were going, when he asked him that, where is the lamb from? He said, God will provide himself the lamb. That lamb is not the one that was caught in the temple, it's Jesus. That's the sacrifice for our sins and for that of the world. And why is this instructive for us, even as New Testament Christians? You know, God is not a careless God. God is not like us. Like